pussy stuff in front of the camera.
Okay. All right. Well, let's try. Okay, so you.
So what we are doing is at the end is an emotional thing about Washington State wines. You know, because as I told you, I'm a winemaker, and I'm so surprised what's going on here. And to be honest, and except of Saint Michel, I never had it on the target. So this is.
No, I know. It's the biggest problem that Washington has.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't exist. And people,
definitely.
they have no. I talked to a sommelier at a relatively. We met him at Provine, and we went to Frankfurt. We went to his restaurant, a big restaurant, nice restaurant. He doesn't know where Washington was. I said, it's by Vancouver. Oh, okay.
Of course not.
They don't know where the state is.
Nobody knows.
But why should they? The geography, I don't know the geography of a lot of parts of the world that I know that, I don't know Germany. That's why I don't know where things are. I know wines sometimes and winemakers. So that's our biggest problem is them, first of all, knowing where Washington is and then accepting it as a region that can produce interesting wines. It's very difficult I think for people psychologically to accept what they taste sometimes with our wines, with our best wines.
This is what happened to me yesterday. I was surprised, I was touched, but at least I was scared, because I'm a German winemaker. We are producing the best Riesling in the world.
Yeah.
But I tasted stuff yesterday, which was near to perfection.
Rieslings?
When we talk about Riesling, yeah. And I had Bordeaux plants. When I would be a Bordeaux winemaker, I would be totally pissed off and said, "Oh, what the hell is going on here?" Because I had some Cabernet Franc. It tastes like Cheval Blanc. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
This cool style and
the wines too in Washington are more in line with people from Europe are used to tasting. People, we had 6 winemakers come here about 3 years ago from Provence, and they travel every year together. They're coming to Washington. They said they were surprised that they thought the wines would be like California, but they said they're not. No. They're like Europe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've been lumped in with a California. California is really more like Australia.
Yeah.
If you want to have an interesting comparison, it's those two. But who in California wants to be compared to Australia? They want to be compared to, you're just like, you're Lafitte. Oh, I know, I am. Better buy it 100 more new barrels, And
let me taste something, come on.
Yeah, okay, so this is the Ciel du Cheval. You tried some yesterday from Ben Smith at Cadence.
Yes.
And this my wine is, the vineyard is right across the road from his. This is about half Cabernet Sauvignon, half Merlot, half Cabernet Franc.
It's a Red Mountain thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ciel de Cheval.
Yeah. It's on Red Mountain. It's an older vineyard. I've been buying, the first wine I made in 1989 was from this vineyard and from Shampoo. Do you want a bucket or something to spit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
We literally have a bucket.
It's always a mixture between spitting and swallowing. It depends to the taste, at least.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Put it over. Yeah,
yeah, it's cool.
That's right. So the vineyard was planted originally in 1970. I think they started in 1976.
Okay.
And so since then they've planted more and more, and it's about, I think it's about 60 acres now, 65 acres. The wines are structured there more so than in some other places. So sometimes Americans aren't so interested in it because it's more like a Saint Estèphe,
Yeah.
Structured wine. And I think the modern writers in the last 20 years, the major writers in the United States have really, if a wine is at all tannic, they're like, oh, the wine's no good, it's a flaw. But it's not a flaw. It's just tannin. It can be too much, like anything else.
The tannins are ripe, it's smooth, they are not aggressive, nothing.
No,
it's absolutely too young. It makes no sense to drink it right now. It's 13, you said.
Yeah, we just bottled it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Really elegant, and it's a cool style. I like
Yeah.
it. It's a good beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next vineyard is I bought the land in
Von dir aus rechts?
I bought the land 20 years ago, and this is there we go. This is Two Blondes vineyard.
I'll put it in the middle.
Not 20 years ago. We bought it in the year 2000, and we started.
Is this the
planting.
name? Two Blondes?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because I have a partner who owns 25% of it, Bill Fluckenstein, and his wife Melody is a blonde, and my wife, who passed away unfortunately about 10 years ago, she was a blonde.
Oh, okay.
So Bill came up with the name.
It's a nice idea.
Yeah. And this is in a more western. This is the most westerly vineyard. It's near the city of Yakima, about 15 miles east of there. So it's a little bit cooler area, and it so it produces wines that are relatively, they're quite soft and aromatic, much more billowy, than the wines from Ciel or Shampoo. It's a distinctive area, but I really love the aromatics of it. It's always complex. They don't usually have as much.
The tannin structure is totally different to the first one.
And it's a totally different wine from Shampoo too.
It's more the masculine thing. It's a little bit harder, but I really like it. It's very closed right now.
Yeah.
Had a hint of I don't know, it's a kind of cooked cherries or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow. And an amazing length. So, and again, this is nothing I would, when I would have it in a blind tasting, I would never ever recognize that this comes from the New World.
No, these wines,
so different.
I use, part of it is I'm reticent, about how much oak I use. Maybe these wines are from 35 to 45%, something like that, new wood. French wood, and but the rest of it, that's not American.
Do you use any American oak?
No.
Never? Only French?
Only French. I tried it out when I first started making wines in the early 90s, but I just didn't go for it. I think there's people, one of my favorite wineries in the United States, Ridge, uses nothing but American oak. But it wasn't for me. I just didn't. I never really liked it. They're able to use it in ways that are sophisticated. A lot of the winemakers using it, it's just too aggressive, and you get these flavors of like dill and banana.
Yeah,
and
especially banana.
That's the bad part of American oak. But it can be a different kind of a barrel that's more integrates better into the general.
What have you done before you start winemaking?
I work in restaurants.
In restaurants?
Yeah.
As a what? As
well,
a
I
chef
started
or
out as
sommelier or?
Well, kind of the restaurants I worked in are usually small, so I would be buying the wine, but I would be manager too. But when I started out in the first one, that was a really good restaurant, I was buying the wine, but I was also working in the restaurant as a kind of a waiter. And sometimes I do the door, seat people. So I was doing everything. Sometimes I cook too.
Okay.
And then I worked at another restaurant and at that restaurant I became the manager of it. But I bought I always bought the wine wherever I worked.
Where did you come from? Where did you work? Are you here from the
Seattle
region?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So native.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am. Queen Anne Hill. In fact, the winery was in Seattle, and right in the like a mile from downtown in a little warehouse.
Okay.
When I started out, because I had to work in Seattle, I had no money.
Yeah.
So I had this little winery. I have a picture of it I could show you later. But,
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't really like working in restaurants, and in 1987, I started making some wine with some friends. We bought fruit in 1988. We bought fruit from Shampoo Vineyard, and we make 2 barrels of wine. And I was like, I thought this wine's. I was amazed.
How was
pretty
it
good.
in this time? Nobody. It's kind of a pioneer thing in 87, 88.
Yeah, there was Leonetti, Quilceda, Woodward Canyon, where they were all making wine, Port Saint Michel, but there was maybe 50, 60 wineries then in the state. Now there's over 800. So yeah, it was new. I mean, there were just a few winemakers. Most of the wineries, I wasn't very interested in what they were making, but those 3 that I mentioned, I was, and so I learned a lot from them.
And then it grows like this. How big are you today? How many bottles do you produce? Or cases, sorry.
It depends. Some years I'll do like 48,000 bottles, 4,000 cases. Last year, like right now, we have 6,000 cases of 2013.
Not that much.
I mean 2014, last year's wine. Some of it I take out and I bottle under another label, and the rest of it goes into this label.
And where did you learn it? Did you take some university lessons,
No.
or is it just?
No, just from I have my own
Cool.
palate.
Yeah.
From buying wine and trying,
This is what I
100 wines
expected,
a
to
week
be honest.
or 50 wines a week or whatever, and these salesmen come around. And I knew what I liked. And back then, it was much easier to try a lot of wine. We worked in an Italian restaurant. We have like 15 or 20 Barolos and Barbarescos. We had Angelo Gaia. We have we had vintages 61. We even had a few 58s. We had 61, 64, 66, 68, 70, all of these up into 78. And then he started doing Costa Russi and stuff. Then he got more expensive in the later 80s and in the 90s. And then we went to Tuscany more. But those wines you could buy them, nobody cared. So I developed a palate that way. And then there was a lot of Bordeaux. There was a restaurant, one especially Le Bouznik I went to, and he had a big Bordeaux list. But I always liked Bordeaux more than anything, and then second Piedmont.
So it's the end of a development of a wine drinker career.
Yeah.
Kind of this, or wine lover.
Yeah, and so when I went to make wine, it's much different, because I can remember the first time I tried the wine after I made it, it was like the lights were out. I was like, because I'm used to trying wine that's at least 3 years old. It's a big difference. I couldn't taste, basically, but I was like, and then I'd take it to my friends who were winemakers and ask them is there anything wrong, or what's your opinion? I think I still have notes that I wrote down. I always have been willing to ask other people what they think of my wine, because maybe they have some idea that I could change it. I don't care about being, genius winemaker, and all that kind of stuff. I care more about learning about it, and we still do. I mean, we are making changes, small ones each year. 4 years ago, we changed our tanks completely. We used to have open top tank, someone like in Burgundy, and we'd stand up there and punch down.
This is what I'm doing too, yeah.
Yeah, but now we have closed top tank, and we have tanks that have 5 rods go into the tank, and we blow air into it, and it turns the cap over. So that's what we're doing now. So we'll make changes, but usually they're smaller changes. When I went to Bordeaux, for instance, I saw that they were racking when we were at Margaux, and I asked him how he does it, and he pretty much did it like I do it, but then they burned sulfur or put gas the barrels right after they racked them, as soon as they dried for 20 minutes, and then they put the wine back in, and he said it's just a little bit. I started doing that. I think the wines are a little fresher then, so freshness is something that is. I hear winemakers in Europe all the time saying the wines are fresh, the wines are fresh. You never hear that here.
No?
No. The United States, they don't. It's more like they want it to be, decadent and dripping with the marquise, love, and, this kind of thing, where I think it's a completely different idea of what wine is. Here it's like wine is like chocolate or it's somehow a little bit sinful or something. I think wine in Europe is more along the line of a food and of a...
not everywhere, but not in Germany, but in France definitely.
Yeah.
In Italy too. In Germany we have no wine culture. Wine is nothing. Wine is
Really?
Wine is kind of like a bread or piece of meat or whatever. There's no culture.
Beer is the...
Yeah. Beer is beer is very popular, of course. Yeah, but
Wow.
beer is the beverage. Beer, we really have a beer culture, but we don't have a wine culture.
Really?
Unfortunately.
I never either. Huh.
It's getting
We had like the
better,
best,
but
some of the greatest wines in the
of
world.
course we
period.
have. Of course we have. But I just explained it to somebody yesterday. A normal German would never ever buy a bottle of wine for a special occasion, which comes from Germany.
Really?
So it will be definitely a French or Italian or overseas, new word. So this is something very special. It costs $50. So, but there's a new consciousness developing for German quality wines, but it's quite difficult.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know that the markets were, Ernie telling me the markets were very tight.
Yes, of
But
course.
I thought that was because of the way it's structured.
I have to change
The bottle of wine
Yes.
is $125
Yes,
to
yes,
$250.
yes.
I'm definitely in that league. I mean, I can, there are a lot of people that prefer the big boned sort of, heavy sort of mouth feel and everything that you get from wines from Napa Valley. But
So what is your? Do you have any real serious European market for the wines?
well, yeah, I mean in London.
London?
I mean,
Mhm.
but we're, maybe they sell like 70, 80 cases a year. But it's a lot for me to sell in a market like London. That is like, look at London. They're the big Bordeaux shippers
Yes,
over
of course.
history. They're the
Of course. And they
there's
still
the
are.
history, and those people there. When you're in London and selling wine, it's not like selling wine in even in New York or Chicago or somewhere. I mean, they're very focused on Europe.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are.
and so for me to be able to sell there is great. Plus the restaurants that we sell at are like some of the best ones, like what was that one, the Fat Duck or something. He had the two blondes on his list, and there's a Portland chop place, and they had a whole quarter of a page just about Andrew Will and me and stuff. So these are younger winemakers. I mean, younger. What's his name? Isn't so young, but these other people are younger people, and they're willing to try the wines. Once they try them, they'll sell them. Now, they're not like selling them like crazy, but they sell. I mean, and so we're established in the market. We sell in Sweden. It's slow. Germany, some, but slow. We used to sell a little bit in France. There was a guy in Beaune who bought the wine and sold it, but he died. So I haven't tried to sell in France again. I mean, I think I could sell a little bit, 10 or 20 cases or something, if I really tried. But it's just, I haven't. I'm just more focused on other markets. We sell in Japan. We sell in Korea.
Oh, Korea is a
Across
very
Canada.
interesting market for us too.
Yeah.
And we have another one, I see.
Yeah. This is the
With a
Sorella.
blue capsule, is it something?
Yeah.
Why is it
So
blue
this
now?
wine, when I started making wine in '95, I had always liked Bordeaux a lot, so I started making blends, Merlot, Cabernet, and there was no Cabernet Franc available to me then. But I started labeling this wine as Sorella, which is sister in Italian, and my sister was a partner with me when we started it,
okay.
but she died young. Yeah, she died in 1995, and so I had a friend of mine who's an artist had a portrait of her on the label, and then that was up until 2003, and then my wife Anne died, and the same artist had done this portrait of her 30-some years ago, so we changed it to that portrait.
Okay.
But it was the first wine I made that was really what I really like, I mean, I sold wines from California that I liked a lot too. They're Cabernet and that, but if I was going somewhere and it was somebody's birthday or something, or I was buying the wine, I was going to buy Bordeaux. So, I wanted to try the blends, and I always liked them. I always thought it made a better wine, a more complicated wine. There are a lot of people in this country that don't agree with that.
Yeah, probably.
But there's a lot of younger makers. You saw Ben, what he was doing.
Yeah.
Other people in the state, younger, to me, like people that are 40 and below.
How old are you? Sorry for the
68.
question. 68?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, every day.
Okay. This is...
So this one is almost 80% Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is a different from the others.
You spit everything else out? You don't swallow?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I don't.
So everything tastes for me like it has a real good and big potential. So how is the aging going with the Washington State wines? Is it
great? We can bring some wines from 95 up, and you can try them yourself and see what you think. A vintage that I liked a lot, we have 94. I like those two. I didn't like 92 is okay. 93, the wines are still wholesome. They're good, but it was very cold here for us. So like a lot of them, we have 21 and a half bricks or so. So
okay.
The wines are not as developed. 97s are good. So yeah, maybe we can try a few and you can see for yourself what you think. They age really well. I think if give depending on the vineyard and the crop level and the winemaker, but the potential is there, and of course the weather, the vintage. But that's true everywhere. One of the worst things you can do, I think, is to have too much crop.
What do you think will happen the next decade here in Washington State?
It's still going to be the same problems. We keep progressing. I think the winemakers are becoming better. Winemakers. We certainly have better winemakers now than we did 15 years ago. Still, you have 800 wineries, maybe 80 of them have top winemakers, maybe 10%.
Okay.
But I think that's true in a lot of the places in the world. You go to Bordeaux, 2,500 chateau, you only hear about 200 to 300. The rest of them, people... They're just, you don't even hear, you don't, know much about them. And if you try them, they're not always the best wine for different reasons. So I think that, if the biggest problem is what I mentioned before, is just people understanding the state and accepting it as a region that could make top wines, that can make really good wines. It's a very conservative business in my view. It's very conservative. It takes forever to get people to accept.
Yes.
Even if they taste the wine blindly, and you put these wines in with Bordeaux or something, they may pick it, in the top 3 or 4 out of 10 wines, or the top wine or whatever. They still won't go buy it.
What must happen that this will change? What do you think?
I think possibly younger people are more acceptant. If they aren't involved, like people like my son is also a winemaker here now, he's 28. He has a totally different view of and I think people his age do too, of wine, and the wine writers have had so much influence over people of my age. I think that's gone. They don't care. They don't read it. They don't, they just don't care. And they're much more willing to try wines and accept them. I think that that will help a lot. Just the fact that the people that are like 30 years old, 35, and like the wines, are willing to try them. Plus Bordeaux, I don't know how long they're going to continue this way, but they virtually are shut down in this country. They've priced themselves out of even the United States market.
Yeah, they have
nobody
problems.
In Boston. Classic Wines, which is
I know them.
They bought no Bordeaux in 2013. They bought a few cheap wines below Cru Bourgeois. They told me they're just stopping buying it. They can't sell the wines they have. Nobody wants them.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
For if my son wants to go and try, you know, wine from like, let's say a '08, not a very good vintage, but maybe some of the wines are pretty good, you know. Like, what is Côte d'Estournel? $250?
Yeah.
For not even
it's
a
crazy.
great vintage?
It's crazy.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're not going to do it.
No.
Even,
no.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's
They kicked themselves out in the last years.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really have. But they,
Except of the big names, of course.
right.
Doesn't
And
matter.
Lafite, but how many people are paying $12,000 a case for 2010 Lafite and Le Margon?
Yeah.
I'm not.
No,
And I
of course not.
have a lot of Bordeaux in my cellar. I still buy some years, like I bought like some in '09. I bought some fives. I have a lot of 2000. I like '01 a lot. I'd like to buy some more '01 if I can find it. I don't have any 6, 7, or 8. I'm going to try to find some of those if I get around to it. There's winemakers here I definitely like. But anyway, I think that us educating ourselves to be better winemakers, the vineyards are getting older, working on the vineyards, all of that's helping us to become better winemakers. And I think that, like Rob and the people at the Washington Wine Commission helping to educate people, and you coming here, it's a big benefit to me. That's the only way, you know, it's just going to be slow. I mean, it doesn't matter if you get one wine like Quasita or something selling, you know, because of what the major wine writers say about it selling. It's just an anomaly. You have to have the whole region has to become known. It's like what's his name in Lebanon.
Moussa.
So everybody knows his name, but that's it.
That's it, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
and nobody's saying,
Yeah.
"Go,
No.
what's the Lebanese vintage like this year?"
It could be named that Chateau
Right.
Volatile
Yeah,
Acid.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that part of the problem too has been this is a big problem for me, but nothing I can really do about it, that California has not tried to establish themselves outside the United States. Even like at Provine, they had a smaller group there than Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil
They have,
had a bigger booth.
Yeah.
Really? Than
Yeah.
all of California,
Yeah, no,
because they're
it's-
lazy about it.
It's
And Washington too.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Washington too. Here, you know, it's been tough to get the industry behind that idea. And as long as, you know, the major markets, the United States, they won't do it. But it's really too bad. The Spanish wines are all over the world. Italian wines and French wines are all over the world. And wines from America should be too, but they're just not.
Last thing. Why are you sitting on an island now? Because it's not. It's
Because-
nice. It's just something like a paradise, of course. But
Because when I was getting, you know, when I had the winery in the city, I lived in the city, you know, but we needed a bigger house, and so we looked around, and then we think, well, if we're going to have a house, we should move out into a rural area, and we'll have the winery where we live. The property on Vashon Island was reasonable. We could afford it. We loved the way, you know, the trees, the setting, and the land and everything. I like the idea of it being an island, actually.
Yeah.
And it was the only place, you have to go like 100 miles from Seattle to get land like this that I could afford. So it had to do with those two factors, the price and then the way it looked. You know, it's very right, 20 minutes from Seattle, and a million people there. But when you're here, it's like you're 100 miles away.
Yeah, it's on a small island, undiscovered. Yeah. Anywhere in the ocean. Yeah. I really, and it's not a problem for the logistics and everything.
No, the ferries are just part of the highway system. And the trucks come. We usually get the fruit 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They drive at night, and fruit's cool. They're coming through the mountains, and we don't have any issues with anything like that. Bottles, you know, trucks came out, we bottle. And
do you have a tasting room here too?
No. We only open one day of the year.
Oh, okay.
And we have we invite people, maybe 400 or 500 people.
So it's different to this Woodinville thing.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Like a Disneyland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I live here, and I didn't want
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we entertain people quite a bit, but it's not open to the public.
So you're focused on the retailer market, not on the private customers.
Well, we're focused, no, well, both. I mean, on the internet,
Oh, okay.
we try more and more to sell that. And then when we're open that one day, we sell the wine then to people who they can order here and take it with them. But other than that, yeah, it's wholesalers and the markets around the country. Like I'm going to Montreal next week.
Canada is important for you?
Montreal is.
For us too,
yeah,
yeah.
Toronto isn't, Vancouver is, Calgary is in between. But it just all depends on whether they want to get behind you or not. I mean, we had somebody in Vancouver, they weren't doing a good job for a long time, and you start to think there's something wrong with your wine, there's something wrong with the market. And then we switched to another company. We met Ray Signorello, and his company is much better, and we're selling wine again immediately. So Montreal is SAQ is huge. Probably, I think, the biggest buyer of wine in the world.
We make a lot of business with SAQ.
Yeah, and they were 2 years ago. We sold them a lot of wine. So I like to stay in touch with them. Plus, I like Montreal.
Is it possible that I can taste something a little bit older?
Yeah, okay, go get
Is
it.
it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. Really.
Well,